see it's like carbon dated here and everything else. If anybody would like to look at this also, I will have this on the front seat. Also, I will be bringing this to Masada. Please feel free to look at these whenever you want. In addition to which, it's showing film memory. I have some, see the terracing to the right? Jerusalem stone. So we keep the flavor of the city. We also wanted to keep, in Jerusalem, no buildings taller than the old city next to the old city. So you can see how they're thinking about building, even with Jerusalem stone, parking lots. Now here on the left, coming up, is a CIA headquarters for the Middle East. Unless I'll say that out loud, but it's true. It's the American consulate in. This is listen to this one. See if you get it. Right here is the American flag. Right here, coming up, is the American consulate. Right here. That doesn't matter. Now there are 2 American consulates in Jerusalem. In Washington, D.C., children, especially if you've been to Washington, you have consulates or embassies. Yeah, you have embassies. The embassy of the United States government, for example, is in Jerusalem, West Jerusalem. Why? As we will be seeing, as we go through this area, you'll see that Jerusalem was a divided city until '67, and anybody's guess is what will happen next week. But different countries used to have a consulate in Jerusalem of Jordan and Jerusalem. By the way, those that went to the supermarket was right here, right? The Conservative Center for Judaism, for Conservative Judaism. We just passed on the back corner. If we have time later, I'll show you we're in the neighborhood. We know where they are when you drive around them. But we'll try to show you a little bit more of this as we go around. This neighborhood, by the way, is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in town. How can you tell? You'll see there are names of insurance companies and banks on many of the buildings. And in any city in the world, once you see insurance companies and banks, you know it's expensive. Through Shishkin Street, you will be able to see a house. It's on the other side of the street on the next corner, and there's a guardhouse. This was Golda Meir's house. This is where she made coffee to the boys. We're not going to get back into this area for this. And we're going into a valley. But before we get into the valley, you may see the Hilton Hotel. Today, that is the Holiday Inn. Every view of Jerusalem to get your bearings. This valley, by the way, is a subject matter. And if you go through and learn the names of the streets, you'll learn history whether you want to or anyway. Like Six-Day War, Mithla Pass. This valley is called the Valley of the Cross. Why? Because you can see in the lower part of the left-hand side of the bus a monastery. This is the Monastery of the Cross, a Greek Orthodox church. You see it? By the way, on the right is the Knesset. That's where we're going now. You'll find it on your own. Judaism, it is not. The ancient symbol of Judaism is this. It's 7 in the idea of coming out of Sinai, probably modeled after a plant that was in the Sinai Peninsula and the southern Negev. And it probably wasn't as big. It might look, and I'll show you tomorrow, I thought it looked very similar to this in terms of what is on the new state of Israel. And I'd just like to point out a couple things, and nobody's here, so we're going to go up there in a minute to take pictures. This circle is the Shema. Why? Because the Shema is the central theme holding Judaism together. Hear, O Israel. And around it, they have, and you'll see in a moment when you go up there, different images of Jewish history and the Bible, modern and ancient.
I was thinking about
My son grew in the last year. Oh, yeah, will you take it?
I was thinking 18 months between their
No, we want to put, let's take the kids and let them go on.
Strike. And this is a hunger strike against the Prime Minister and the peace plan. By the way, it was on TV. And, you know what, I'll run up, you want to just go there and see if there's anybody, members of Knesset there? Let's go for a controversial subject in Israel as well, which I think is a nice kind of process that goes on within the democratic principle. And as I said, we'll all see what happens this
Is that
week.
why they put the park here? It's a convenient place.
Right. I'm not sure, always get your room. And there was a very important diplomat that came in. I think she's a diplomat. Her name is Madame. It's fabulous. You can see the backside of Hebrew University, but look and you'll see arches on this road down below now. Do you see the arches? This road is to blend. This is called the Begin, Menachem Begin Highway, not Begin Highway here, right? But it's beautiful. Even the gas stations, as I mentioned, even the roads are built with the Jerusalem stone. Now, what is Jerusalem stone? Jerusalem. I know it's a woman also. I don't
Are you gonna go there?
Church. And there are other churches associated in Jerusalem. You can actually see how the new suburbs of Jerusalem are spreading out, period.
Yeah.
But basically most of it, as I said, is Second Temple. This is a great question. Why did they build Hadassah Hospital out here? In the 1950s, 60s, this was literally in the middle of nowhere. The city didn't nearly come close to here. The reason it came here, the original is and almost completely wiped out, a couple hundred people. While the British looked on, the Haganah couldn't help them. They weren't allowed. Okay, we're going the other. Let's get to the Brinks truck. Toward lunch. Brinks truck agreement with them. So maybe we'll get a bumper sticker for each side, one for the front.
Mr. Rich?
What?
I want this.
Why?
I'm going to talk a little more as we go along. You'll see a number of things. First of all, remember we talked about geography and taking the city. This is one of the places that the Jordanians expected the Israelis to attack. But, as we mentioned, it happened on the other side. In addition to which, these are the walls of the old city. In 1967, when this became part of Israel, David Ben-Gurion was on top of Mount Scopus. He sat with Yigal Yadin and he looked over the old city and he said, tear the walls down. What? He said, tear the walls down. So Yigal Yadin said, the ancient walls of the old city. So what did Ben-Gurion tell him? He said, cut it out, these aren't ancient. They're only 420 years old, that's what they were then. Tear them down, it's not even ancient, let's open everything up. They didn't open them up, but we still have these walls, which are from the Turkish Ottoman Empire. They're almost 500 years old now, and these walls were built for the new city for the Ottoman Empire, as we said. You basically have to make a right turn. Why is it built that way? It's not. They wanted to make you, to stop you, or break your momentum.
I'm going.
One of the things they had to do was go down to bedrock. And in the Jerusalem Post in 1970, there was a big discovery where we're standing. Up here is the 20th century. The discovery was this in the Jerusalem Post. the main street of Roman Jerusalem had been found. It was a big discovery, except it was incorrect. It wasn't Roman, and it kind of the pottery, and because of everything else, and then going to a map, which this is a part of. By the way, it's also in the YMCA, a replica of this. Looking at this map, seeing a street here, these are columns. This is, by the way, Damascus Gate today. This is Mount Zion, that church that we just saw some of the rocks, biblical stones. No, by the way, no Temple Mount. In the middle, you have what's upside down here. This is the sepulchre. This side of this room was Byzantine. This is the Byzantine, what is called today the Cardo. Many Roman and Byzantine cities have it. Cardo meaning cardiology, the heart of the city. And this is the main street of Jerusalem. And you'll see how big it was.
Hi, welcome. Okay, dress your toga, read on ahead. Okay. Of course, the original Roman knife that I'm calling it the amazing knife. Why? Because we can use it for many things. Cutting the meat, eating the rice, drinking the soup. Sometimes we can use it for bending the rice. But really, you will not find any forks here. Before the Roman didn't use it with forks, they used it with their own hands. And before that, we gave you this toga to wipe your hands off the fish. But really, you will find something that looks like fork. It is not before. Maybe can help you. But this small thing we are calling it with the other. Also, these small plates in every corner of the table, one of them is green spice. This green spice, its name is hyssop. But we are calling it here in the Middle East za'atar. And the other one, olive oil, and in the third one, olive. Now, when the bread comes, you can take a piece from this bread, try to dip it inside the olive oil, then do the hands of testing it, sharing in the bread.
Good.
now show you level 17, under the leg trick, Roman style. Okay, here we go. Under the leg trick, level 17, Roman style. Hey! Oh, you don't like that? Okay, Roman style. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Are you ready? I don't know. Let's wait till the trick's over. Woo! Now I must warn you that later on. You're going to catch one on one arm. One round your head. And one on the last arm. On three. Are you ready? You sure? Do you know the practice? 2, 3. Now, if this trick works, ladies and gentlemen. 2. I will throw this back. 3.
Remember we told you you were standing, where you were standing, remember we walked down from the 20th century to the Byzantine period about 1,500 years ago. But remember I said they had to go to bedrock? That wasn't bedrock. They had to go all the way down here. What did they find? This is one of the few places in the world you'll see, this is terrific. You see these rocks, and the rocks, well, they can't see here. These are the walls of Jerusalem from the time after Judah Maccabee, 2,200 years ago. But that's not why we're here. The other thing is, you see it looks like a hedge right here? These are the walls of Jerusalem 2,800 years ago. And these are the walls from the period of the Bible that protected Jerusalem from this side. Why does it work? Because you can see the first temple part of Jerusalem, the second temple part of Jerusalem, a modern period which is only 1,500 years old, and we came down from the 20th century. And right here you can see all the junk that was here that they had to dig away, and if it says the year 23 BC, don't buy it. You got it. And because you got it, this is what we're going to do. If I can open this. Because I wouldn't know. So the BC, we may not do this because these American, what you are going to help me with is this. You will show the adults that do not have the sophistication that obviously you have, how the... Coming this way.
Have alligators in the water?
I sure hope. Okay, if everybody in this... The Israeli army put down the road to Jericho a number of reinforcements because there was a fear that Jordan was going to come up that road with Saddam Hussein. Now, if you control the road, you control Jerusalem. Jerusalem was under siege. Now, remember those cars we saw coming up to Jerusalem? That's part of the story. But this is the Jewish quarter. The Jewish quarter was a siege within a siege. And the Jewish quarter was about to fall in 1948 to the Arab forces, the Jordanian Legion. And And as the Jordanian Legion took a synagogue, they blew it up. Every, we don't overgeneralize, every synagogue was either partially or totally destroyed in 1948. This synagogue is called the Chorva Synagogue, and you can see the arch. To give you the idea how tall it was, the arch has been rebuilt, but on top of the arch there were windows. On top of the windows there was a dome. This was huge. Now what happened? This was the last battle for the Israeli Jewish forces in the Old City. When this synagogue fell, the Jewish forces went down this street, Toledo, Jerusalem. They went into the Sephardic synagogues and there surrendered. And from that time, no Jew could come where we're standing. Now the reason I picked this synagogue rather than a beautiful, magnificent synagogue, and you know what beautiful synagogues can, they can just be magnificent, is because of this. There are two ways of looking in 1967 on what to do with these synagogues. And maybe the children can answer what you would do. People were saying, what are we going to do in the year 2000 when kids come here and visit? Is the 6-day work just going to be some history? And people are going to say, okay, let's get on next and go whatever we're doing now in the year 2000 and forget about it. So they kept it this way as a memorial for Jerusalem falling. So when we come years later to visit Jerusalem, we can take it not for granted, but it can appreciate the Jewish quarter which we're in now. And we're going to walk through two other quarters on Saturday, I hope. The Muslim quarter and the Christian quarter. These are the four quarters of the Old City. The others are but the other side of this is the back side of the Sephardic synagogue.
This is not rebuilt.
Okay, what you can see actually, even though it is dark. What happened was a lot of the buildings were half destroyed or completely destroyed, so they had to rebuild them. Where they were weak, they completely destroyed them or rebuilt them, like this building. Where they were partially okay, they used what they had and then they made build on top where they would add stones like
Well, they better be. Do you realize we went one way and we turned and we went another way and we turned and we're still on Beat L Road?
channels really have a garbage sewage. When they rebuilt the city, they just made up the right. Very, very dangerous. Let's come over here for a second. When the stones are wet, it's very dangerous. Very dangerous. If I can have right now.
סליחה.
דקה אצל הקו.
מה?
Who's that guy?
24 hours a day. There's at least somebody praying.
That arch is the top of the Roman gate to Jerusalem from the 2nd century. It might be the original place of Calvary, as we spoke about yesterday. Coming up on the right, we're going to pass another gate. By the way, every gate in every language has different names. So the gate we're going to pass here on the right is called Herod's Gate. The other side of that gate, the other side of the walls, before the Crusader period, and a little after, that was the Jewish quarter, the original Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. Now we're coming around, we're, by the way, in East 7. Also, it is called in the Christian tradition St. Stephen's Gate, after St. Stephen. Is called in Hebrew the Gates of Mercy, or in the Christian tradition the Golden Gates. This gate is sealed and completely into the city of Jerusalem through this gate to the Temple Mount area, and that is the coming of the days. And it's quite interesting because historically there's an event, again, just to remind you, this is the city of David.
Talking about this later. The yeshiva will be actually underneath today. This is the on the right. They're doing a lot of building. We'll talk about that also when we get up there.
Du har da din dims med.
Hey!
What this is. I didn't want to tell you, let's look around, let's start to figure out what's first of all, where we're walking, below us, you see there's ouches, 4. 2. Above us, I said there's a city. What? Now this means this was not from the period of the Second Temple, but almost 1,000 years after, maybe a little more than that. And square holes on top, which have been mainly cemented in. And this is the place where the people above us, 1,000 years ago, would put their buckets down to get water, and they were plastered. Below us are the foundations of that bridge that I showed you, which is a bridge linking up the Temple Mount and the upper city. And how did they do it? It was basically, as we started to say, arches on arches on arches. So So they basically were on the foundations are under us.